You came back. Good. Pull up a chair and try not to make a sound. This is the last whisper. There's a job posting that still exists online right now. You get paid to sit in front of a camera all night. No heavy lifting, no customer service, no boss breathing down your neck. All you have to do is stay awake. Sounds perfect, right? A guy named Oliver thought so too. He signed up, got matched with a lonely 74-year-old woman named Viola, and spent several peaceful nights watching her sleep through a webcam. Then one night, he dozed off. And something that had apparently been there the whole time finally moved. There's something nobody warns you about when you graduate. The real world doesn't welcome you. It just opens a door and waits to see how long you survive before you start making desperate decisions. Oliver was 19, smart enough to know he didn't want to flip burgers, not smart enough to know that the alternative he found online would cost someone their life. His best friend sent him the link, a platform called Sleepwatching, a legitimate, registered service that connected lonely people who struggled to sleep at night with paid companions who would stay awake on a webcam and keep watch until morning. The concept made complete sense. A lot of elderly people live alone. They don't need a nurse. They don't need medication. They just need to know that somewhere on the other side of a screen, another human being is awake and watching over them. And they were willing to pay serious money for that peace of mind. Oliver signed up immediately. Within days, he was matched with his first client. Her name was Viola, 74 years old, widowed. Her family had set her up in a small apartment and then essentially gone silent. She wrote in her profile that she hadn't been sleeping well for weeks, that the nights felt too long, too quiet, and that she thought having a younger presence on the other side of a screen might help her feel safe enough to actually rest. Oliver accepted without hesitation. The pay was generous. Viola seemed kind, and the job itself required nothing more than staying conscious in front of a camera while she slept a few feet away in her bedroom. Before his first session began, the platform displayed a brief list of rules on his screen. Rule 1, do not fall asleep. Rule 2, under no circumstances are you to wake the sleeper. Rule 3, do not press the red emergency button unless there is a genuine emergency. Rule 4, do not fall asleep. The repetition of Rule 1 and 4 struck him as slightly odd at the time. He figured it was just the company being overly cautious. He clicked agree and dialed in. Viola appeared on screen with a warm, genuine smile, the kind of smile that belongs to someone who has lived long enough to be grateful for small kindnesses. She thanked him, wished him a good night, laid down, and was asleep within minutes. Oliver spent that first night browsing the internet while watching her chest rise and fall in the pale glow of her bedside lamp. There was something unexpectedly calming about it. A sleeping person is a completely vulnerable one, and watching over that vulnerability carries a quiet weight that most people never get to experience. The first several nights passed without incident. Viola slept. Oliver watched. She would wake with the sunrise, smile at the camera, thank him genuinely, and end the call. Then one night, maybe the third or fourth week in, Oliver was browsing at around 2 in the morning when something in the video feed made his stomach drop. Viola had gotten up to use the bathroom. Oliver had been half watching the empty bed when he caught movement in his peripheral vision. He looked closer at the screen. Coming out from behind the curtain that covered the window on the far side of Viola's room was a hand, pale, oversized, moving slowly, deliberately, as if testing the edge of the darkness. Oliver blinked. He stared at that curtain for a long moment. Nothing moved again. He told himself it was a trick of the feed quality, that late-night screens have a way of manufacturing shapes out of nothing. Viola came back from the bathroom, smiled softly at the camera, and went back to sleep. Oliver said nothing about what he thought he saw, and that was his first mistake. A week later, Oliver made his second and final mistake. He hadn't slept much the day before. He didn't have his usual energy drink. He sat down for his session with Viola, fully intending to power through the night, but somewhere around 3 in the morning, his eyes closed. He doesn't know exactly how long he was out, at least an hour, maybe longer. What woke him wasn't a sound he could immediately identify, a sudden jolt to consciousness, the kind your body forces when something animal and instinctive overrides everything else and demands that you open your eyes right now. He looked at the screen. Viola was still asleep, still, breathing, safe. And then he shifted his gaze slightly to the left side of the frame. There was something standing in the corner of a room. It was tall, abnormally tall, built narrow and wrong in the way its limbs connected to its torso. It stood completely still, and its eyes, both of them, were entirely white. Not clouded, not blind white, reflective, like two small lights pointed directly at the camera, pointed directly at Oliver. Oliver's body seized. His hands went cold. He couldn't produce a single sound for several seconds. Then the figure began to move toward Viola's bed. Its movement was unlike anything with a natural explanation. Not floating, not walking, something between the two that managed to feel both mechanical and fluid at the same time. It covered the distance between the corner and Viola's bedside in a way that didn't correspond to the number of steps it appeared to take. Oliver screamed. He yelled Viola's name at the top of his lungs. She woke up. The moment her eyes opened and found the camera, found Oliver's face, the figure's arms came down. What Oliver witnessed in the next several seconds he will never be able to fully describe. The sounds came through the speakers clearly. The image on screen was unobstructed. Viola's eyes stayed on Oliver the entire time, not looking away, not closing. She was fully conscious, fully present, and she was looking at the one person who was supposed to be keeping her safe. At some point, barely audible through everything else, she whispered his name. She asked him to help her. Oliver grabbed his mouse and slammed the red emergency button. A message appeared on screen. This feature is currently restricted. User, Wishbone43. Reason, violation of Rule 1. The platform knew he had fallen asleep. It had been monitoring him the entire time. And the moment he broke the primary rule, his access to the emergency system had been quietly revoked, before he even woke up, before any of this had started. Oliver sat in front of that screen until the sound stopped. When he finally forced himself to look up, Viola was motionless, and the figure was standing at the foot of her bed, both arms hanging at its sides, still staring directly into the camera, directly at him. It didn't move again. It simply stood there, looking at Oliver through the screen with those white, lightless eyes, as if it wanted to make sure he understood exactly what had just happened, and exactly why. Oliver closed the laptop. He hasn't slept a full night since. He didn't go to the police. What would he say? That a webcam showed him something that shouldn't exist? Murdering a woman he was paid to protect in an apartment he'd never physically been to? While a website he signed up for on a whim cut off his ability to call for help the moment he violated its terms of service. No one would believe him. And even if they did, reporting it means explaining why he was asleep. It means admitting that Viola died while he was drooling on his keyboard, useless, while something moved through the dark toward her bed. He knows the guilt of that. He carries it every hour. But guilt isn't what's keeping him awake now. In the days following Viola's death, Oliver began noticing things at the edges of his own space. Shadows that shifted when nothing in the room had moved. A sound in the apartment at night. Low, rhythmic breathing that didn't belong to him. The feeling of being observed from a direction he couldn't identify. It has been getting closer. Here's what makes this particular case genuinely terrifying, and this goes beyond one man's account. The sleepwatching platform is real. Websites that offer exactly this kind of service exist and have existed for years. The concept of a paid overnight companion via webcam is legitimate, documented, and growing in demand as populations age and loneliness becomes a measurable public health crisis. There is nothing inherently suspicious about the service itself. What is suspicious is this. Buried in the fine print of several such platforms are clauses that users almost never read. Clauses that grant the service broad rights to monitor watcher behavior during active sessions, eye tracking via webcam, movement detection, even audio analysis, all in the name of quality assurance and client safety. The platforms know in real time whether their watchers are actually awake. Oliver wasn't the only watcher on the platform that night. There were dozens of active sessions running simultaneously, which means there were dozens of sleepers in dozens of apartments, in dozens of cities, each one trusting that whoever was on the other side of that camera was conscious and alert. And if any of those other watchers also fell asleep, there's no record of what happened in those rooms. The platform's public response page has since been taken down. The user account under the name Wishbone43 no longer appears in any directory. Viola's profile has been removed. But the website itself is still up, still accepting applications, still matching watchers with sleepers every single night. Oliver described the entity he saw as something that felt less like a supernatural creature and more like a mechanism. Not a ghost, not a demon in the traditional sense. Something that operated according to rules. Rules that existed in parallel with the platform's own terms of service, as if the two systems were designed together. As if the entity's access to a sleeper was contingent on the watcher's failure. Think about what that means. It doesn't show up when the watcher is doing their job. It only moves when the rules are broken, which suggests it isn't there to cause random harm. It's there waiting for a specific condition to be met. Patient, stationary in the dark, every single night, until someone falls asleep. And if that's true, if there is something that operates on those terms, then the question isn't whether Oliver was unlucky. The question is, how many other sessions, on how many other nights, produced the exact same result, and the watcher simply never woke up to see it,